Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Forecast. In today's video I'm going to be going through one weakness of each national team in terms of they are having going into the Football World Cup, and is there a way to fix this problem and how could this be done. Obviously the problem with national sides is you can't just purchase a player, so you often see squads with one or two weaknesses in it, but the rest of the team is absolutely brilliant, and that's what we're probably going to see today. If you enjoy this, it's going to be great if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I'm going to start with the Dutch national team, and this is sort of what the lineup's looking like for the World Cup. And I think there's an obvious weakness, and it's Memphis Depay up front. I think this is well sort of knowing that Depay up front is a weakness. And I guess you could question maybe why is Van der Ven playing as a left back and why is Timber playing as a right centre half. Well, I think that's because Van der Ven's a bit better going forward and he wants some attack and wing backs. And I think this is how I would actually do it as well. I think this could work very well. What I'm sort of thinking is though, is there a better alternative than Memphis Depay? And for me there is, and it's not a striker, and I'd play a false nine with Xavi Simons and allow him to drop here. I think that would work really well, because I think Gakpo's brilliant at cutting inside. I think Frimpong's got the ability to do this. I think he's got the pace, and I think you could very much work this, because then you've got these attacking wing backs who can go up like this, and I think this would work very well for the Dutch side. What would I do it here? I'd probably get Gravenberch more central, sort of just to control the game, sort of like that, and then I'd give Reinders also some freedom to get a bit higher, De Jong, because there's all this sort of space which you can operate in now, because Simons has dropped and he's creating all his chances. I'd sort of use his free midfielders quite attacking. De Jong, a bit more conservative, but then you've got Dumfries on that side who can fly, and for me that's what I would do for the Dutch side. I think the only other thing you could talk about is maybe the keeper, but you can't really do much about a keeper. Well, it's the problem with the keeper position. You can't go, oh, I'll play someone else here. If you have a shit keeper, you have a shit keeper. But I don't think Verbruggen's awful. I just think he's not probably to the standard of the rest of the defensive midfield, which I think is really good. It's the attack where there are concerns for the Dutch, I think. Right, on to Spain, and this is going to be very quick. The only weakness you can really pull out with Spain is potentially the striker problem, where they've got maybe the potential of likes of Oyarzabal or Ferran Torres playing up front. You could also use maybe someone like Samu at some point, or Morata, but they basically just don't have, I'd say, a top number 9, but I think that's fine, because they've just got so much quality around them, and they make it work with the likes of Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams. It's not really a problem. I mean, the only other thing you could pull out is maybe the right back. Maybe they can have a slightly better right back than Porro, but for every other national side there'd be a very good right back, and maybe the inexperienced Huijsen. You could also use Cabassi there. I'd probably go with Cabassi, but Spanish coach De La Fuente really likes the look of Huijsen, and that's fine. Basically there's no real issue, and that's why I'm just going to quickly go over that, and that's what basically the message is. There's no real issues right now with the Spanish national side. Moving on to England, and look, this would be my strongest team under Thomas Tuchel, based off the system he has used so far. I think that you go Colwill and Gay. I think that's pretty questionable. Some people would probably disagree, saying that you needed to go Stones. Maybe you need to go with Israel Konsa, but that for me is a beast and a half partnership. And look, people also point out the left back as a weakness. Maybe you go Hall, maybe you go Scully. My point is, I don't think like anybody's that convinced by that defence. I think if you look forward, you go, why is Bellingham not on the side? But for me, you can't not play Palmer. Palmer's absolutely essential, and I think you need Bukayo Saka in the 11 somewhere. So that's why I am playing a completely different system, and I think that solves the problem. And this is the system that I am playing. In goal, Jordan Pickford, then a back three of Israel Konsa, Mark Gahey, and Colwill. Yes, I'm playing a back three. Then Reece James, Rice, Wharton, and Saka. And for me, this is a very effective. And then Bellingham, Palmer, and Kane. I think that gets most players into their best position. I think the thing you're probably questioning in this 11 is why Saka is a left wing back. Don't worry, Saka's going to have the full freedom to go up and down and basically play as a winger. And this will mean that Colwill shifts across, Mark Gahey shifts across, and this is where you start to see the team. Constantly shifts across and makes a back three. Reece James will go forward, but a bit more conservative, and he'll be more important in the build-up. And then this will allow Palmer to basically go as a right winger, and then Declan Rice can fill in this role, basically being a box crashing midfielder, and then Wharton sort of becomes the DM. And I think for me that gets the best out of most of England's players, and it also gets rid of some key issues. I don't think not having an experienced enough left back. I think the defence maybe being a bit weak. You now have an extra defender. Getting Bellingham and Palmer into the same team, which I think is absolutely essential. And for me, that's what that does. Let me know your thoughts on that team. Do you agree with it, or do you think it's not going to work? And I'll move on to the next nation now. Now we're on to Brazil, and I think if you look at the side, a couple of players just stick out like a sore thumb. You're looking at Casemiro, Vitinho, and Henrique. I think the rest is very good. You could maybe play João Pedro or Mateus Cunha. Maybe that's a potential issue, but I think the centre forward's not a concern compared to the rest. Casemiro shouldn't be in the Brazil national side. It's that simple. You could play Santos, you could play Joe Linton. I think either way, it's not the quality of the players around them, and that's a problem. The fullbacks, Henrique and Vitinho, nowhere near the standard. Vitinho basically failed at Burnley. He's now in Brazil. Vitinho isn't good enough for the Brazil national side. Neither is João Henrique. And if Brazil do go, if this does cross Brazil, then this will cost them probably the World Cup. And for me, that's why they're just not quite there where they need to be. They're not quite at the level of Spain because they have issues like this. If Brazil can fix this, then you never know. Maybe they can go far in this World Cup, and they need players to come through quickly, or they need players to hit some very good form. So moving on to Argentina, and this is the team that I would select. I'd sort of allow Alvarez to sort of come inside. Messi can also sort of operate in this sort of area, drifting in. I think you've got to get Julian Alvarez, Lautaro Martinez in, because I just don't know who else is really attackers. Maybe that is a problem. They don't have a quality left wing. You could use maybe Nico Gonzalez, but I think the actual issue is definitely the fullbacks for Argentina, because that would work if you had attacking wing backs that are good. I'm not sure that Tagliafico and Montiel are up to level, and it's very similar to the Brazilian side actually, where the middle of the pitch is very solid. It's the sort of fullbacks where they're getting let down. I think that's happening once again. Some people might say Rodrigo de Paul isn't good enough. He's so important for Messi because it allows Messi to sort of not have to work and get back and sort of drift. What he likes to do is just sort of drift in the pockets and sort of walk around, and de Paul allows him to do that because of his huge work rate. But for me, it has to be the fullbacks, whatever system it is. Onto the Portuguese side, and I can sort of see two issues with this team. One, I don't know if Ronaldo's quite good enough for today. I think he's very much a luxury player. He doesn't press too high. He's very much just going to stand up there as the centre forward. And look, he's very good at being at the right spot at the right time, ready to put away the goal. But I don't know if he's actually the sort of player that Portugal need. Now, they've tried Ramos there. He's sort of out of form at PSG, which has sort of allowed Ronaldo, I think, to sort of take this position by himself. And look, playing Cristiano Ronaldo is never a problem, but I don't think he's quite at the level of the rest of the Portuguese squad these days. The fullbacks are absolutely excellent. I think Mendes is still at such a high level. In fact, Mendes is probably one of the best left backs in the world. Cancelo is also an excellent right back despite still being in Saudi. So where is the Portuguese weakness for me? Left centre half. Today they played Ruben Neves at centre half, so they've clearly got an issue here. I'd probably go Inacio, but I mean it's not great pickings for the Portuguese centre halves, I don't think, and I don't think they're to the standard of the rest of the squad. Ruben Dias is Inacio, isn't, and that is the Portuguese problem, and they need a centre half, I think, a better one before the next World Cup. Moving on to Scotland, and Scotland have, I think, one of their best squads they've had in a long time, and they've got some good players, and they were seeing how good Scott McTominay's been for Napoli. I think Ben Doak's a very good player in terms of how he plays for Scotland, very direct, creates chances. John McGinn, a very good player. Ferguson, Christie, Robertson, Hickey's very good, but there are some weaknesses. First of all, goalkeeper, Gunn. I don't think he's good enough for where Scotland want to be compared to the rest of the squad. Two centre-halves as well, I worry for Scotland. They don't even either centre-half, I'd say, with real quality. Two decent centre-halves, I think, this level, but not like great centre-halves, which is where they're lacking. And for me, a striker. They need a striker who's just a bit more clinical. Shea Adams is decent, but he's not to the level, I think, of what they need. Linton Dykes comes off the bench as well, who's literally like lower level championship standard. So Scotland's squad, I think, is quite good for sort of where you'd expect Scotland to be. But what they just need to do is find a couple of players, and maybe they can sort of push more further into the World Cup. And this is the problem, like, how do you find these players? We've either got to hope that someone like a Shea Adams plays really well, a Suter, Hanley plays well, or maybe even a Gunn, or you've got to hope that some players pop up this year. And that is really the only way that you can fix these sort of problems, I think. So moving on to Germany, and this is probably their strongest lineup for the World Cup. One of the issues I think they have, though, is they have actually a very good defence, and I think that's maybe the way they should approach this, more of a defence-first sort of World Cup. And I don't know if Gnabry's going to be at that great form that he's currently in for Bayern, sort of forcing himself into the side. If he is, like 100% would start Gnabry. But I think maybe they're actually better off doing something like this with sort of a three-back Mitchell Stack, Kimmich, Musiala, Wirtz, Voltemato, Pavlic, Stiller. For me, that's very solid, very defence first, which I think could be important at a World Cup. Where am I worried for them? I think sort of the lack of maybe pace in these attacking mids. Maybe there's something you do there, but I think you have to play Wirtz and Musiala, and I'd like to try and get them into the 10s ideally, but you definitely could go back to this if it's not working, if Gnabry's in that sort of form. But overall, I do like this German side. I'm a little bit worried about the left back. I don't know if Raum Mitchell's stats quite to the standard. Maybe, I mean, this would be mental. You go to something like a Kai Havertz, who actually played as a left back a couple of years ago for Germany. So maybe you actually do look at that. I mean, it would be mental. It wouldn't be an ideal suggestion, I don't think. But it is something you could look into if you want to go a bit more attacking at one of the fullback positions. I definitely think that this gets the best out of Joshua Kimmich as well. Moving on to France, if you just look at the side, there's so much quality in every area of the pitch. I think it's all about just trying to get it all to work together. You look at that defence, you could maybe bring Upamecano in for Kanate. I don't think Kanate is going to be as bad for Liverpool as he would be for France. You look at that attack, and it's just incredible with so many options. This is with Ekitike and Barcola left out. It's incredible how much depth they have. Kante you could bring in. You bring Camavinga. It's just incredible how good this French side is and the amount of depth and options they have. How I think you get the balance, and that is the key, is trying to get a way where it works all together. I think as you give Dembele almost a free roll down to drop in, a bit like he did actually for PSG at points last season, sort of playing as a 9. So dropping in, and this sort of allows Mbappe to serve the freedom up front. You still want to allow Mbappe to drift off to the left. So one of the concerns, I think, is how do you counter with all three of these players sort of in the left-hand side of the pitch, all sort of happy to sort of operate in this area? And I think that's something that Deschamps going to work out. Who is he going to sacrifice and what is he going to do? And look, there's different ways about it. This would be my lineup. I'm sure his lineup will be completely different, but you can't really argue with what he does because every player you go, oh, that's an incredible player. It's incredibly difficult to work out what lineup Deschamps actually going to pick for this French national side. And this was the one I'd pick, but I mean, you could go with absolutely anything. And finally, we have Italy. And before we discuss their team, let's just discuss a clear issue with Italy. They are still currently in trouble of not getting into this World Cup with Norway in front of them. They could also drop down to third potentially. I mean, they make it so hard for themselves. They nearly lost to Israel. Like, Italy's main problem is actually qualifying in the first place. They've got a bit of a hoodoo. We all know this. 2018 they didn't qualify. 2022 they haven't qualified. And it's been a while since we've had Italy in a World Cup. Despite having success in winning the Euros, they still struggle to qualify after. So I think that's Italy's main issue, is literally qualifying for the World Cup before we discuss anything else. But looking at that squad, I mean, I think the midfield's good. Like Barella, Locatelli, Tonali, I think that's very good, especially Tonali and Barella. That makes it into probably an excellent midfield. Defence, I think that's not too bad. Donnarumma's a world-class keeper. Adoji's a world-class it's a good left back. Bastoni's a world-class centre-half. The right-hand side's decent as well. It's that attack. Retegui, Keane, Politano, I don't think are really, I would say, top Italian level standard unless they become that. I think Italy are going to struggle to score goals at this World Cup, especially having enough attacking for it, and that's the issue Italy are going to have apart from qualifying. Let me know your thoughts on each team's weakness or where they need to improve. If you enjoyed this, it would be great if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel. If I didn't get to mention a country, I'm sorry, I couldn't go through every country, but let me know in the comments what your country's weakness would be at the World Cup coming up, and I'll try and make sure to do some content around some more nationalities at some points. And also let me know, will your team qualify for the World Cup and where will they finish, you think, at the World Cup right now?